Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you the top 10 most creative Ark Tames, so let's just get straight into it, shall we? In at number 10 we have got the Crystal Wyvern, and I really do like this creature, and I find, especially when it comes to its elemental abilities, it is on that creative side. While the normal Wyverns are still very good in my opinion, and I still very much like them as creatures, I really enjoy what the Wyverns bring to the scene. These creatures are fast and agile, and especially when coming to the Crystal Wyverns, their elemental abilities are not something to be reckoned with. They really do have a lot going for them in that aspect. They're just so much cooler in a way than, oh, this creature simply just breathes fire or ice or poison, which is still cool, but having the ability to suck the life out of enemies and, you know, maybe shooting water, you might say, isn't the coolest thing. But still, that Blood Crystal Wyvern is the favourite of mine. I love the ability that it gives off. And from model design as well, these things are all looking way nicer. And the tame method, in my opinion, is a little bit more interesting. Well, yes, it's fun and enjoyable to go down into the depths of the Wyvern trenches and find whatever you can salvage from there. You're really not going to get the same enjoyment. At least I don't get the same enjoyment from doing the passive tame with this creature, as I find that to be much more enjoyable from my perspective. Then at number 9 we have got the Mantis, and come on, this creature does deserve to be here. With its huge variety of abilities, it deserves to make the list in my opinion. And although maybe it's not the most popular one, which is why I've moved it back a bit, because I do take your accounts and thoughts a little bit into consideration in these lists, because after all, you are the community that this channel's sort of built upon, and I do like to kind of, you know, call out, shout out and whatever, and sort of take your opinions into consideration when making my list as well, as I kind of want to make these be lists that you like as well as I agree with. So I'm not going to go with something that I completely don't agree with, but, you know, maybe a little bit of a mix and match, a little bit of compromising. But the Mantis for me is definitely one of mine from my mind. I love going around and just shredding through many Ovis on Ragnarok and getting tons of muscle on this thing. They're great for metal gathering as well. You can get picks on this thing. The only thing you really do have to be careful about in some sense is durability does drain it much faster on a Mantis than really just you using it by hand, but it's so much more fun and so much more enjoyable. You might as well give it a go, and they're not the hardest tames in the world. They can take a little bit of elbow grease, but it shouldn't be too bad. Coming up next, we have got the Sarcus, and I really just find as a concept this creature is quite an enjoyable one, from just its very creative model design, really adding a lot to it, literally having a gun on the top of its saddle. Also, I find the way that it moves is pretty creative and enjoyable as well. I like this creature in a lot of ways more than something like the Thyla or the Sabertooth, because it just seems to bring a lot more to the table. Again, that mobility on this creature is purely insane, and I can't get round the pure insanity of just how much I love a creature like this. It really does go hand in hand with my playing style, and the gun on the top is just a nice neat extra that I just really enjoy. In at number 7 we have got the Raasclark. Come on, these are sort of the kings of the island as a map, and they're sort of unbeaten in that aspect. These creatures really do a lot in terms of traveling, at least for me, and especially considering you can pick up things like vaults and just get immense amounts of resources across the map with absolute ease. And obviously you can carry Rexes and Parasolatherians around the map like there is no tomorrow. It's obvious why these things are going to be useful, and although while their weight isn't the best off of the bat, but considering again you can pick up those safes that you're going to have no issue, as that does not add weight to the creature, at least as far as I'm concerned it doesn't. That's kind of a cheat really, so you don't really need an insanely high weight stat, but you do need a vault, which can take a little bit, but trust me, it's not too bad. And at the stage you're going to be taming one of these things, I think that's sort of just going to be the norm. Like, come on, a creature like this is going to be unlocked in the very late game, at least in terms of the saddle level, and taming one is probably going to be even after that. The tame method isn't too dissimilar to the Reaper, which isn't actually on the rest of this list, but I'll give it a brief honourable mention here, as I do think the Reaper is a very nice one on Aberration, and it does add a lot to the map. but not maybe the most creative, because it essentially is sort of a copy of the Xenomorph from Aliens, which is why I had a little bit of deterrence from putting it on the list. But the Irata definitely does need to be here. It's essentially a completely new creation from Wildcard, and I really do like what they've done with the creature. It's cool, it looks amazing, and functionally it truly is a fantastic one, which you should not underestimate. Continuing on, we have got the Gasbags. This is sort of a creature like no other, at least in my opinion. These things are peak when it comes to Ark, at least in my opinion. They're so cute in terms of their model design, and they really hit hard when it comes to travel. They can do quite a decent amount, which maybe you wouldn't expect from a creature like this. But the fact is, they just use oxygen as opposed to stamina, just, you know, to fly around the place. This also does add defense to the creature as well, so that could come in potential use. And while they're not fighters, and sometimes maybe not the most mobile, no saddle is actually required to ride a creature like this, and I find it really isn't that bad in terms of mobility, and you can still get around, and their incredible weight is extremely useful in something like this, for, you know, generally getting around and carrying lots of resources for you. You're not going to need a safe like you will on the Irata, but this is a creature which you'll be taming and unlocking in terms of saddle way earlier than the Irata. It's lower grade in terms of creature, but I actually sort of prefer it as a tame, but that's just my general preferences coming out there. I really do like the Gasbags. I think it's cute, it's cool, and it's sort of something that's never been done before, and nothing has ever been done like it afterwards, and it still stands to this day as a very creative art creature. Coming in at number 5, we have got the Astro Delphin, and this really is one of those creatures where there's sort of nothing that really compares to it apart from the Troponatus. Again, that sort of gets another honourable mention here, as they do kind of tie hand in hand as creatures, but essentially they are really just fast beasts. And the Astro Delphin does just literally mean space whale, but no, sorry, space dolphin. Astro Cetus is space whale. This is the dolphin and not the whale. But I really like the design that has gone on with this creature. And the Troponatus isn't as creative as it was actually just a creature that came out in Ark, but the abilities that it has around it are inherently creative. But this creature still takes a list for me, as it is a completely new idea from Wildcard. Following on from the Astro Cetus, of course, it takes a lot of inspiration from it, but it's that kind of lighter variant in a way. It travels with a lot more speed and grace than the Astro Cetus, and also, you know, just purely in terms of design and looks, again, I love it. And the Astro Cetus is really cool as well. That's quite an interesting creative tame, but sadly that creature is not making the list. Continuing on, we have got the Shadow Mane, and come on, a creature like this really does deserve to be on the list, at least in my opinion. It's a creature which is just so jam-packed full of abilities, it deserves to be here in my opinion. Obviously, originally coming out on Gen 2, it really did shock many players when it came out, and it was something so creative. It also was like the highlight of the Gen 2 trailer, so it's gotta be on this list for its creativeness. I love it as a creature. Its mobility is something which you really don't see on a lot of creatures. The fact that it also can charge up its damage and attack with just a big massive slash, on top of having the hydration buff and the bleed ability, that works even more effectively on a creature like this, especially considering its size and the fact that it doesn't need a saddle. It's just simply, once you turn into one, go ahead and just go out there and battle, really, because they are very decent at it. They're great swimmers too, but considering their codename Lionfish Lion, makes sense. The only disappointing thing about these creatures is, you know, they've been nerfed since release, but still great, and their taming method is just so annoying. In number 3, we have got the Vonaur, and this is just one of those creatures where I think it needs to be on the list for me. Nothing has been like the Vonaur just in any sense. Before it and after it, nothing really can compete with it in that sense. There is nothing like it. I just love this creature and the ability that it offers, where it just shoots its spines from its body into enemies, and it can shake them off to them as well. It's something which you don't see on Ark creatures, and you haven't seen on Ark creatures since, you know, this thing actually released. Obviously the Arvelonsaur is a good upgrade to it, spawning on Gen 2, and I love that creature too, but it is the same one at the end of the day, and that shows its creativeness. Nothing is like it, and it works really well and effectively. Maybe not at the range that I'm showing you here, but still I think it stands, and at longer ranges or mid ranges, which is probably where you're going to be using this thing the most, it really does work effectively to ping off those enemies. It's sort of like your own personal turret, and while you could use turrets, it just seems like a more enjoyable way to use it like this, to have a creature like this to use as a turret. I wouldn't use it in a PvP scenario like a turret, but still for going around by yourself, you can ping off enemies from afar before they even get to you. At number 2, we have got the Mwing, and this creature is one where I just love it. Okay, it's so good at traveling, and its model design is fantastic. It works really well as a creative creature. Would you expect a giant gliding flying platypus from Genesis Part 2? Not really, no, but that's what you're going to get. And at level 18 you unlock the saddle for this thing. It's an absolute cheat code when it comes to travel. Actually, it's really innovated the gliding space. It's just so good at doing its job, at least in my opinion. While the Rock Drake is another great addition to this, I find the Mwing does this job far better than any Rock Drake ever could, and you know, of course, for that reason, that's why I'm putting the Mwing on the list and not any kind of Rock Drake. You should have no issue flying around with something like this, maybe unless you're going up a steep vertical wall. But even if you're in the ocean, you're still going to be fine with a creature like this, as they're pretty decent swimmers, and they can also skate along the top of the water too, which you might not find on some other Ark creatures. They're great for a portable feeding trough as well, which you can probably tell from that slightly disturbing animation which is on screen, and they also gather berries too. What's not to like? And in number 1, we have got the Bloodstalker. In my opinion, this is the most creative thing that Wildcard has ever done. It is a huge favourite of mine, and I love how this was a creature essentially just designed to work on one whole map and be the one sole creature to work on that map. It is a beast at traversing Gen 1, and since it's the only real effective travel mount on the map, it really has been designed for any kind of lava biome, water biome, bog biome, or ice biome. Just basically everything, okay? The Bloodstalker can do everything, and while it can't walk in lava like a Magmasaur, it certainly is a great swimmer, and it's my favourite underwater tame actually. If you ever checked out my underwater tames video, I'll leave a card up there actually if you want to go watch that, if I remember to leave a card up there. That is honestly it's a great creature for it, okay? And I also quite like the video as well. I like what I did on the list there because I agree with it quite a lot. Obviously it is me at the end of the day, but even when you get out of the water, you've still essentially got a Spider-Man as a creature, and you can just go around the place with absolute ease, and you should have no issue with traversing the landscapes. You should just have no issue traversing with a creature of this skill, in my opinion. And also, if you're running low on health, you can always just nick a bit off another creature, you know, you might as well. They really do stand, in my opinion, for all of that. They are great little critters for travelling around the place, and I find they're so creative in design. But anyway, that is the end of today's video. I really hope that you all did enjoy, as I definitely did enjoy making this one. As always, comment down below what is the most creative Ark Tame in your opinion, and if you didn't agree with my list, then feel free to put your 10 in the comments below. I'll see you all later.